Hey y'all, so I'm here on the Arkansas River in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the river's really low right now, and so it allows me to come out here and kind of walk out in the middle of this river. It's really very beautiful place. It's got a good energy, and I was just kind of reflecting on the metaphors and ideas that could be abstracted from this moment, and I just thought I might share with you guys some of those ideas. So, I was thinking about this river, and I was thinking, right now when the river is at its lowest point, right, and it could probably get lower, but it's at a very low point right now, and now is the time when it's at this low point that we can see what's happening beneath the waters, right? We can see what what is beneath the surface level ripples, what the currents have done to kind of shape the vessel, you might say, this riverbed, right? How the flowing water has left these marks in the riverbed. It's left these ripples in time. And so, with that idea, one of the first kind of metaphors or some of the symbolism that I would pull out is, that we all are kind of these rivers moving through this space-time experience, moving through this relative reality, and we're all leaving a wake in our path, right? And something to think about is, in this metaphor, right, I would be saying that we are the headwaters. We are, that peak motion, and that the ripples in our wake are kind of how our will and how our expression becomes manifest into this reality, right? And something with that idea is that it's important for us to not identify with the wake, right? It's important for us to not become too connected to the effects that we are having in this world, but just remember that our true identity is not the effect. Our true identity is the prime cause, right? Is that initial force, that the headwaters, the flowing river, kind of however you want to say that. So, that's something I'll put out there, and you could say that in different ways. Perhaps, anytime something leaves a wake in water, right? That wake, or even when you drop something and it makes ripples, the wake or the ripples are not the thing, right? It is the expression of that thing. And so in this reality, right, we're constantly making these ripples. So again, don't identify to the ripples, like be aware of them, recognize how you are influencing this world and how this world is influencing you, but know that you are not the ripples, right? You are the rock, right, that you dropped in the water, or you are the water itself. I don't know, just ponder that idea, right, and kind of see how the metaphors apply. Another idea, so I was mentioning that when the river is at its lowest point, we can see what was beneath the surface. And an example of that, right? So sorry, my camera keeps going dark because I keep changing the lighting. But if you can see, let's see, this log here, I just like this spot because you can see that it was a very interesting dynamic in the flow of the water. The water was kind of funneled to that point in the curvature of that log, and there was a buildup of debris, and on the other side there's this long kind of sand deposit that snakes out that way, and I've seen that same formation behind other rocks in this riverbed. And so that's just kind of an example of, you know, how we can see the way that the river left its mark, and to relate that to our lives. You know, sometimes it does take a sort of depression or a sort of, you know, deep self-reflection to see maybe our true identity, or just to see the wake that we are leaving in this world, right? And so, you know, it can be overwhelming to be in one of those low points of our lives, but know that it's in those times that we often learn the most about ourselves. And so you just gotta keep persevering, and you know, I always just know that there's so much to be learned in every single experience, in every moment, and just, if nothing else, right, if you can't find anything positive in your experience, at least recognize how much there is to learn from that experience. And that is positive, really, when you get down to it. What other metaphors can we extract from this? You know, I love seeing the ripples on the water, and something to think about, you know, is the ripples on the water, they kind of have that same swirling expression as, like, say, your thumbprint. And it's cool to think that, you know, those ripples of your thumbprint are kind of the imprint of our expression into this world upon this physical body. So, you know, the interaction between, you know, our soul, you might say, or our innermost expressive force interacting with this kind of outward reality, leaves this individualized thumbprint, right? This, or fingerprint, that's going to be unique for every individual, because every individual, you know, is being manifest in their own unique space and time, and has their own unique qualitative expression, you might say. So something else, I mean, sunsets are so beautiful, and especially when you see them over water. And just the idea of reflection, right, is such a profound idea, because in some way you could say that this entire reality is all about reflection. It's just light bouncing back and forth eternally. And when you have that, it's like this, you know, fractal holographic blank slate upon which we can imagine our own coexistence, you might say. And, you know, water deserves really its own, I don't know, many videos, because it is such a profound element. But in this instant, I'll just say that, you know, water is very unique in this world, in this reality, in this world, and it has a very strong tie to life. And in some sense, it's kind of the balance or the middle point of this elemental flow between this kind of, you know, the solid earth and the gaseous sky, and you have this fluid water in between, perpetuating this cyclical balance between the two. And, you know, water has so many anomalistic properties that really, you know, allow it to give rise to life, allow it to, yeah, give rise to that kind of perpetual motion. And, you know, the fact that, say, you know, water, when it reaches its freezing point, actually becomes less dense. You know, that's kind of one of its anomalies. And that, when you kind of see the picture of that, right, it's just showing you that, you know, water is kind of backwards. When it reaches its freezing point, when it should become most dense, it becomes less dense, right? And that in itself allows for this cycle to begin to occur. And there's more to touch on that topic, but I thought I would just share that here. And here's another rock, and we can see the sand trail that's left behind it. And yeah, I mean, there's so much to see here. You know, again, with the idea of the river showing its secrets, it's like, you know, we can see all of the rocks and the gems that have been polished and left behind in the river's wake. And I know this is not the dirt, or not the cleanest riverbed. This is the Arkansas River, and you know, it's in the middle of a big city, and so the rocks aren't very colorful or clean, but there's still so much to appreciate. And you know, with the rocks, you could touch on the idea of how they are, you know, being smoothed and weathered through time. And that's another great metaphor of, you know, as we move through this world is the water, right? This reality is the waters. And as we move through that, you know, we get polished, right? We, you know, through this tumbling about, through this sort of friction-filled, abrasive interaction, we get polished. But eventually, you know, we get so polished that the waters just flow right by, and you know, it no longer affects us. And it would be at that point in which I would say, you know, you are walking on the waters, or you are, you know, above the waters, or really, you know, the Maya, the illusion, the reality just flows by, and you know, no longer affects you in the way that it did. And that's another one that I hope, you know, you guys should contemplate on your own, because I'm just giving you these little snippets of you know, what there is to take from the reality all around us, right? This is the way that I would hope everyone would begin to interact with their world, is to see, okay, what message can I find here? Like, what, you know, metaphor is being presented in this reality, in this experience? What is the symbolism? And everything has a story to tell. And that's why it is true, nature is our greatest teacher, because nature, in the way that I define it, which is, you know, this nature as this, you know, prime, innocent, perfected expression of infinite unfoldment, or you know, the perfect reflection of fractal interchange, you might say, or a cyclical pattern of productivity. I don't know. You can put all sorts of words to it, but I love nature as our greatest teacher because of that pure essence, right? When you build a fire, the fire shows its clarity, right? It shows this infinite expression. When you see water, you know, water moves with that perfect, infinite, you know, rippling expression. Air, right? It's hard for us to interact with that element, but it's there. It still has that infinite expression. And, you know, the crystalline structure of these rocks has a beautiful, you know, infinite expression. The way that the crystals nest and interact, you know, and even the subtle energies, or the, you know, the ether or the plasma, or however you want to picture that kind of fifth element, you know, again, they all are expressing the same thing. So there is such beauty around us, and I have to show the power plant and the downtown skyscraper, skyline, and you know, again, there's more metaphor there, but there's this contrast that can be found, and contrast is good. It allows, you know, it allows us to paint a more in-depth picture. It allows us to see more of ourselves. So appreciate the contrast, but know where you come from, right? You don't come from that, right? You come from a source that is perfect in its expression, right? You come from the trees. And that's more literal than probably most would even recognize. So keep contemplating, guys, keep thinking. You know, I just want to share some ideas because I'm not, you know, in the end, I'm just giving you things to think about, and there is just an infinite buffet of things to think about in, you know, everywhere that you are. So start being aware of those things, right? Start appreciating what is in front of us to teach us. So I'll leave it at that. And something that I like to sign off on when I write, I like to sign off by saying, thank all, give all, love all, be all. And so think about what that means, because it's a very profound, it's profound to me, and I love I love what that signifies to me. I'll say it one more time. Thank all, give all, love all, be all. Peace, you guys.